This game is affected by your choices. No, it's not. Welcome to Wish for Death Island, still population me. And today, life is strange. I've wanted to talk about this game for a while, and I've never thought that it was a bigger deal, so I never really had that much to say in the first place. But I recently came back to it, and boy, was I wrong. Let's cut the crap. This video is going to be divided into a couple different sections for clarity, and let's just get into them as we get to them. And yes, I do believe that if you like the game, that's fine, and I'm not going to hold it against you. I know most of you have the common sense to know that that's obvious and this is just an opinion, but there's always a group of people that don't understand what opinions are. Anyway. Half of the pages of the initial notes that I got for this game was just quotes from the dialogue, because the dialogue is masterful. It reminds me of one of those Jesus rap guys. I hated the word hella before, but I have transcended. I have never heard real people talk like this besides people trying to be relatable and those little random XD potato type of girls. Let's go through some of my favorite pieces.
And now you're totally stuck in the retro zone. Sad face. I hope you checked the perimeter, as my step ass would say. Now let's talk business. You got hella cash. Why don't you go fuck your selfie? Movie booty? What the fuck is a movie booty? Incredibly bizarro? Nerd alert. I just wanna blaze and be alone for a moment. You hella saved my life. Shake that bony white ass. How many times I told you to stop blasting that punk shit? Is it gross? Epic win. Isn't this awesome sauce? Hella fucking paranoid. Please, stop it. We would all be hella best friends forever. Why me? I'm just a geek girl in some small town. You got some crazy shit going on in the dorm room. Check it. Oh, he's so money. He's so money. Not only that, but there's some really weird shit with the views on medicine in this game. Like she says, last time I got a flu shot, I got the flu. And then later on she's getting medicine for Chloe and she's like, good, Chloe has some natural medicine too. And it feels like there's some weird agenda, like new age viewpoints going on, but that's just me. I'm not. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it. So when the game decides it wants to push a narrative, it's also hilarious because it's so forced and unnatural. Like grumpy asshole security guard is like, get out of the school, didn't you hear the emergency? And Max is like, she's like, I was in the bathroom, and he's like, girls always use that excuse. Who says that? And she was clearly just leaving, so just let her alone. Plus the principal comes in and is like, hey, you don't have to leave, we know there's no danger after all. How'd you figure that out so quickly? Wouldn't you just want her outside just in case, like just to make sure? Isn't it protocol just to have everyone outside to evacuate first before double checking? You don't want to take that chance, but I guess when your student is dumb as Max, you kind of want to, maybe. But the same guy, because he's such an asshole, goes on a very forced rant about entitled PC students that think they can do anything they want after finding out someone broke into the campus the night before. Wow, game, way to be subtle about it. I guess he's a bad dude because he hates everything PC and PC is good. There's also the Max is a feminazi written on the wall of the boys' locker room. It's really subtle and nuanced opinion. I love it. I love Tumblr. There's also a whole dialogue tree where you say that you better not disturb someone as you're actively knocking on their door, or say, I don't want to talk about it, and then immediately talk about it, just to move the plot along. I understand that for some choices it's kind of necessary to move the plot along in this way, otherwise there'd be no plots, but just the way that you go about it, sometimes it's like, why don't you just like move it along instead of giving me the option then? Just give me another option somewhere else. Don't try and lie about it. I love how Max is like, welcome to the real world in the beginning, and it immediately cuts to the most goofy fucking characters ever. Also, when these characters, including the principal and teacher, talk about a girl that committed suicide, if you let her die, and there was the fact that she was bullied because of a video of her leak, and they're all blatantly just saying, she didn't say no to being recorded, lol. Like, okay, then that's not incriminating and couldn't have your ass whooped in real life in a matter of seconds. That's fine. So this game obviously has some options, and they like to put huge emphasis on their choices and consequences, and while some big obvious fuck off options do matter, the extent of the choices that you have is greatly exaggerated. Because for most of the time the game actively is so obnoxiously linear that it just blocks off everything else but the thing that it wants you to specifically do. Like, why have choices at that point? Why not just make it a normal linear game? It's not bad to not have choices, but when you advertise it as something that does, then I get a little fucky about it. Like one time you have to leave the dorm room after doing some plot stuff, but the game doesn't actually let you go back in after you've left because it just wants you to hurry along to the next part of the plot. Like, don't you think that I might have wanted to go back in there just to like see what was going on? Just to see if there's any extra little Easter eggs that I could look for? What's wrong with wanting to explore a bit? I don't want to open the entire campus up. I don't want to get lost, but just a little bit is fine.
And when Victoria and friends are blocking the stairs to get to the dorms, you could easily just walk up the side anyway because half of the stairs are free. There's a giant gap there, so it makes it feel like the game is forcing you to make a choice of going through the convoluted thing with the sprinkler to chase them away instead of actually just walking. I understand the game wants you to get the specific plot point done, which is fine, but they could have easily just spaced out the girls or made the staircase narrower or made them more spread out by putting their legs up on the stairs and putting their bags up on the stairs, or having like some construction completely block off that part of the stairs to make it feel like it actually mattered. I know this sounds like nitpicking, but this is an important thing about game design, being that the details like this are important to build your world and establish the choices to actually have more weight and be more believable. When something like presentable liberty comes along, the lack of choices that you have being stuck in this room is really you really feel it. It really establishes the feeling of powerlessness you feel in this world, and when you finally have the choice to leave, it feels like it's too late, but you're also dying to know what's out there and just how futile everything is. It's important. So the main consequences that there are whether or not you rewind to get the best outcome, or how rewinding affects the world around you. As Max says,
I'm a human time machine.
I mean, the game constantly tells you to rewind to get a better option, or to rewind to stop this thing, or rewind to get the exact option at once. So everything feels like trial and error with dead ends and one real option instead of actual options. And in some instances, if you don't check your phone after a certain period of time, it just forces the phone screen on your screen when you're playing, so you have to check messages for it, but other messages, you suddenly have the option to check them. When you hide from Chloe's dad, you can't climb out the window because Max just doesn't want to do it, but after the scene with Chloe where she's like, hey, climb out the window with me, the new climbing option is suddenly open. Why wasn't it before? Was it not possible before? Had the window gods not deemed it possible before? Like, I understand that they just put small branches that you could easily get over as barriers in the forest section because you can't walk everywhere, and it's better than an invisible wall. I actually prefer that stuff over just having a block where you can't leave. Also, sometimes when there's something you need to rewind a lot for, like proving your power to Chloe, you've got to listen to all of the dialogue every single time because you can't skip it. Just let me rewind and finish this. Don't you think people would get annoyed at the dialogue over and over and over again? I sure did. So this gets a little into mechanics. I don't usually care, honestly, because with time travel it's always really impossible and contradictory. It is fine. It's perfectly fine. If I were to make a time travel story, I would just not be able to do it well because it is very, very difficult. It's kind of like with ghosts. Like, there's always these stories, ghosts were real, and how come there's not so many ghosts that you wouldn't even be able to see anything? How come there's only a couple little ghosts here and there when it's convenient? Like, I understand that it doesn't make sense as a premise in the first place, so I won't like say anything about it, but with that being said, if you set up your own rules for time travel and then blatantly just disregard them and contradict yourself, then I have to say something about it, because that is all on you. Firstly, the game says that if you go stand somewhere else and rewind time, it will look like you teleported because people will see you in one place one moment and then to them you instantly just bopped into the other place instead of you walking and then rewinding for yourself to be there. This is what it says, so you think you can teleport because the game tells you. Yet somehow it shows you staying in the same place while rewinding in some sections, and then some sections you clearly are redoing what you did in reverse or walking backwards. Why does it change like this when they clearly establish that there's one way of changing it and you are not affected by the rewind? It clearly says this. Also, when Chloe asks you to prove that you can time travel, she asks you to prove it by seeing what's in her pockets, like you're psychic. Why don't you just take her somewhere like the place that you go to shoot the bottles, because that's clearly an isolated spot, and teleport in front of her? You can clearly do it. Don't forget, this isn't me just hypothetically saying, well, you could do this if you had these powers. The game straight up tells you can teleport, but it doesn't let you teleport. What is the point of this? It seems like that was just a rule they put in because they couldn't write themselves a puzzle out of the beginning section, and then they just completely forgot about it. Why don't I just play Adam's reaction to it?
Why don't I teleport? That would be like the easiest way to impress somebody, is appear like in a different spot, you know? So cigarettes weren't an option until I looked at them. Why don't you fucking teleport in front of her? Why don't you just go like, hey, I'm gonna show up right next to you right now. Why don't you just rewind time and show up like to her right, you know? You don't have to do all this fucking bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. You don't have to do this. It would be so easy. The game has already explained to you that you can teleport. Why don't you teleport right now? Why do I have to do all this shit? Why? Why do I have to do this? This doesn't doesn't make any sense. Teleport.
Clearly I'm rich as
She'll
fuck.
believe you if you show up to the right of her right now. Why? Why?
With this in mind, you could now just walk past someone, then rewind, so that you're in your new location and you're still hidden, so that they wouldn't even see you walk past in the first place. For example, if you wanted to sneak past the principal on the porch, just walk past and then rewind once you've gotten away from him and into the spot where you're hiding, so it'll be before he even saw you and you'll never get caught. Or when the security guard comes to the pool, just rewind before he comes in and run out early. Another thing that bothers me is that objects on your person, when you rewind, are unaffected by the rewind, just because you are. Like, the game implies that, like, you don't age backwards or anything. What you're holding doesn't suddenly jump out of your hand. It's still in your hand. So you can get things earlier because you just rewind after you got them, right? So does that mean you can take an object, and that object is not gonna be there earlier, and it will disappear from that place because you have it now? Or does the object reappear as, like, a duplicate because you rewind back to when the object was still in its place? So let me try and reword this. So you have a hammer on a table, and you can pick up the hammer and then rewind to before you picked it up. So you're still holding a hammer. Does that hammer then just magically reappear on the table as well? So now you have like infinite hammers that you could just spam by going backwards in time? Or does it just not appear on the table anymore? Some sort of like contradictory thing about like, if it's not there, how did you get it in the first place? I don't. Anyway, like when you're helping Chloe look for bottles, can you not just pick up one bottle and then rewind and pick up the same bottle over and over again? She's clearly just drinking out of one. Why don't you just wait for her to finish before you could use that one? Is she that selfish? She's not even helping you in the first place. She's a shitty person. When you get food from Chloe's mom, you can eat it and then rewind, and then she'll still give you the plate even though there's no food on it. So does she not see that the food is clearly eaten on the plate? Is she having the illusion that it's still full because she's just unaffected? If the food is supposed to be affected as long as you're not touching it, does the food that's in your stomach still exist as it was and be digested, but the original plate just grow back? Like, I don't get it. So if you picked up a hammer from the table, would someone still see the hammer on the table as an illusion? Because she's not reacting to the fact that she's giving you an empty plate. Chloe is a dumbass. She's selfish, speaks like a BuzzFeed employee, and doesn't really do shit. She reminds me of one of those MySpace scene kids with the daddy issues back in the early 2000s, because she is. She got that used to be a good girl, but no, I got daddy issues and I'm a bad girl, look at me, I want attention thing going on. She is clearly standing around doing nothing here. Like, she makes you look for the bottles yourself. If you're the slightest bit critical towards her in any way, like saying that she did something wrong and admitting David might be right about something, she acts like you fucking broke her arm or something, like you drowned her infant, because Chloe knows best, and she also blames the weed on you. Max isn't better. If you go through all the shit in Chloe's room like a nosy bastard, the only thing that actually makes Chloe react is that picture of her and Rachel, and Max goes, "I wasn't trying to be nosy." Yes, you fucking were. Shut the fuck up. She does this fucking Gollum impression in her own head, and I want to die. Wait, what the fuck? When you pick up the camera, it says JPEGs are good quality? How is this photography class? Yeah, send in some JPEGs. Make sure you edit them in fucking MS Paint, you dumbass.
Birds are so lucky. They can always escape.
Do you seriously have keep calm and carry on your floor? Please leave. Can I leave? No, I can't. I'm stuck here forever. Also, Max says that this image that she gets from Victoria could be art if it wasn't so sick and disturbed. It can be art. Can be art if it's sick and disturbed. Have you seen DeviantArt? I guess it's not art if you disagree with it, Max. Also, Victoria is supposed to be a bully bitch, but honestly, her and Chloe act so similar, like I don't know how Chloe is defendable then.
Oh no, Max sees drugs at this party. It's good that it's only okay when Chloe does it, otherwise it would be an issue.
You see Chloe fucking shoot herself if she misses the bottles, and it's like, oh no, it's the gun's fault, Max. Sure. She gets her foot stuck in the train tracks, but she's like, help me, I'm stuck. I'm not gonna bother taking off my shoe or anything. My shoe is so valuable. How did you even get stuck there? It just kind of happened. She's so steampunk. Let's see. She's not dapper. She doesn't have the aesthetic. She doesn't like industrial or slightly classical gothic aesthetic or gears or top hats. I don't see a single long military coat in the vicinity. Anything to do with steam-powered giraffe. No, she's not a steampunk. She's just a dumbass in a junkyard. And that's that.
Pardon me, but you're in my eyesight.
Isn't everything in your eyesight?
I don't like your tone. You sound like a Joyce. She is bossy. Cool. I worship her every move.
Oh, how embarrassing. I should evolve and become a vegan. Oh god.
Did you just say hella? I think I'm a bad influence on you.
Oh, no swearing in my Christian Minecraft server. Watch your language. Such a badass. Now she can suddenly just jump into pictures. Like, is that just a plot device? Is that what happened when the teleportation thing just stopped? Like they just switched it with something else? So the picture takes you to the disable-verse, as I like to call it, because the consequences of going back in time to do some shit makes Chloe disabled. She's one of those tragic characters that always turns out shit, so whatever. Oh look, we're in Murakami's 1Q84.
I just vaped some Dagoji bud.
So duct tape in a bunker is always bad. Well, heaven forbid someone needs some equipment and tools that are in everyday sheds. If something goes wrong and they need to repair something. How evil. Resources. Oh good, the killer's personality completely changes once it's established that he's evil and he has time to completely monologue even though he could have obviously not done that. The art is trash. How did it get to the museum? This looks as bad as what I can do. Dream sequence, my favorite. I love nonsensical dream sequences. Though that is kind of hypocritical of me because I do like David Lynch, so no, ignore that. That's fine. So this guy comes through the door and looks the opposite way, and I love it. The result, if you kill Chloe, because how could you not, is that you go back to the first choice, so the entire game does not matter in the slightest, and your choices really didn't have any effect at all. Who needs Donnie Darko when you got this shit? How bad is this that I actually thought Minecraft story mode was more fun?